This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Okay, Shalom Aleichem. Welcome everyone. Again, Erev Shabbos Hagadol, Erev Shabbos Parsha Tzav, all Erev Yom Tif. I want to welcome all of our J-Root listeners and Torah Anytime viewers, and Achron Chaviv, the Chashva Talmid Chachamim here in Koilel Mitsuyanim of Kew Garden Hills, New York. And I want to speak a little bit. Guess what I want to speak about today? Pesach. And the more obvious something is, the less we think about it. So what is the name of this Yom Tov? Pesach. And let's say, in English we call it Passover. Usually a name is supposed to capture the essence of something. Not knowing anything, if you were an alien who landed from a different planet, and you saw what Jews were doing every year at the Seder, commemorating Yetzias Mitzrayim, what would you name the name of the Yom Tov? You would not name it Pesach. What do I mean by that? I mean, Pesach seems to be a very, very minor element and aspect of the miracle. What happened? The night of Makas V'chayros, God killed the Egyptian firstborn, and He passed over our houses. I mean, He really did that every time He brought a Makkah. We weren't afflicted. Okay, it was more serious Makas V'chayros, so our firstborn didn't die. But would you say that's the essence of the Yom Tov? That the one night of Makas V'chayros, God skipped over our homes. Really, it should be called Yetzias Mitzrayim, or God taking us as His people, or redemption, Geula, Chag HaGeula. I mean, Pesach seems to be like a minor detail in thousands of various miracles that transpired over the course of Yetzias Mitzrayim. Why are we honing in on that He skipped over? You could say, you could call it Kriyas Yam Suf. We would have all died if He didn't split the sea. Not just the B'chayrim. I mean, isn't Kriyas Yam Suf a bigger miracle? Is Makas V'chayros, the fact that He didn't kill us, is that the biggest miracle? Is that the best terminology to describe Pesach? So that's a question that I would like to address. And you're probably scratching your head saying, hey, how come I never thought about that? Why call it Pesach? Also, another question, and this question we've discussed in the past, and that is, the night of the Seder, we pride ourselves that everything we do is with a Seder. In fact, we even list the order of operations before we begin. Right? We sing Kadesh or Chatz or whatever nigun you use, but we recite the order with which we do things. That probably means that we have a very specific order and we like to be very organized. When we come into the sukkah, we don't say Ushpizin, Kiddush, Zman, Leishe Basukah, gefilte fish, soup with matzah balls, chicken, and then dessert. We don't list the Seder. And yet the night of the Pesach, we say clearly what we're about to do. The problem is that the order with which we do things seems a little bit out of order. Because we know conceptually, if I were to ask, if you have a dirty wall, first you clean it, and then you paint it. And if you have a dirty pair of shoes, first you clean them, and then you shine them. First you wash something, and then you polish it. And the same thing in Ruchnias, first you stop sinning, and then you do mitzvahs. Sur meira, ba'asei tov. And yet, ober danach from Pesach, kadesh, and then orchatz. Kadesh means sanctify yourself, orchatz means wash yourself. You would think it should be flip. It should be first you wash yourself, first you cleanse yourself, and then you sanctify. Like it says in Rus, V'rachatzt v'sacht. You will clean yourself, and then you'll anoint yourself. Okay, Marv Rabbi say, let's talk about everyone's favorite topic, the dew. Tal. So you say, Tal? I never thought about Tal my entire life. Well, when you wake up in the morning, do you, check out the dewfall of the previous night? Did you ever do that? No. Nobody cares about the dew. Why not? Because dew is a constant. We care about the rain. It doesn't always rain. Let's see what the Gemara in Tainus says about this. Amar Rabbi Barachia, Af Knesses Yisrael. So too, Knesses Yisrael, Sha'ala shaloi kahagen, made an improper request. Va'kadosh Baruch Hu heshiva kahagen, and God responded correctly. So we made an improper request, and God responded correctly. How is that? So listen to this. We ask God, Shenemar v'neida nir defaladas Hashem. We will know to run, to pursue knowledge of Hashem. Kishachar nachayin moitzai, like the morning that his nachayin moitzai, whose coming is certain. V'yavai kageshem lanu. We say, oh please God, be like the rain to us. So we asked Rebbe Shalom, please be like the rain. That was considered an improper request. Amar la HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So God says, Biti, my daughter, At shayelas davar, you're asking for something. Shapam misbakish, ram ein misbakish. Sometimes you want it, sometimes you don't want it. Sometimes you want it to rain. When there's drought, when it's very humid, you want the rain to give you moisture. You want the rain to break the cycle. But I want to give you something which is always wanted. Shenemar eya katali Yisrael. I will be like the dew to the Jewish people. You hear what's going on over here? Klal Yisrael says to God, be like the rain to us, and God says, I'll do better. I'll beat you. I'll be like the dew to you. So the question is, what's the shakla v'tarya here? That Knesset Yisrael says to God, please be like the rain, and God says back, I'll do better, I will be like the dew. So there's a famous Perush of none other than Rav Yonasan Eibeshitz. Yes, it's not Purim, it's Pesach, but it's okay, we could still learn Rav Yonasan Eibeshitz. Says Rav Yonasan Eibeshitz on the very first page of the Sefer Yaros Devash, I would venture to say this is the most famous piece in Rav Yonasan Eibeshitz's Sefer Yaros Devash. The Yaros Devash quotes this Gemara. V'zehu ki amru b'Gemara kasher Knesset Yisrael, like Klal Yisrael, biksha v'yavai kageshem lanu. HaKadosh Baruch Hu responds, my daughter, you want something which is not always. I'm going to be something which is always. Well, says Rabbi Yonasan Eibeshitz v'yesh l'havin ma geshem u'matal. What is the difference between rain and dew? Says Rabbi Yonasan, Aval noida mashgaz kol ha'machkarim, it's known what all the scientists tell us. Ki geshem hu lachos haaretz. Rain is the moisture of the earth, ha'olam mala, that rises up. The chelkei mayim zakim ha'olam, and it's the pure waters that arise. Meaning, what's rain? Rain is precipitation. You have moisture in the air. The moisture rises up, and it gathers in the clouds. So it gathers in the clouds. Because the heat of the sun sort of expels the moisture upward together. Because the heat does not carry them up. He says, the heat carries it up, but then it can't stay up in the air anymore, and then it descends down to the earth. When the earth is very dry, there won't be rain. Meaning like this. Where does rain come from? It's the moisture down here that gathers up, goes to the clouds, and then when it's heavy enough, it falls. But when the air is very dry, it will never rain. Ever, 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 ever. You need precipitation for the rain to form. But dew... So if I were to ask you, where does rain originate? Downstairs! The rain originates in the moisture down here. But the dew does not come from the moisture on earth. The dew comes from the moisture in the atmosphere, and there is always moisture in the atmosphere, and therefore there is always dew. Every single morning you will wake up, you'll feel your grass, it will always be wet. Doesn't matter where you live, doesn't matter what the climate is, the air, the dew is a constant. Rak yored min atifas halachos b'chelek ha'avir harachak me'itanu v'oimed tamid kar v'lach, and it stands always cold and moist. Umisham yitfu eglei tal al ha'aretz, and from there the beads of moisture drip down to the ground. And therefore, on a daily basis, whether when it heats up a little bit, there'll be some dew. Therefore, dew is never withheld. So you hear the fundamental difference between the rain and the dew. The ecosystem, the way that it works, is that the moisture of the earth. When there is moisture on the earth, it rises up, it forms the clouds, and then it rains. The dew, on the other hand, is a constant. Why is the dew a constant? The dew is a constant because it comes from the atmospheric moisture, and that's why there is dew every day. Well, the mashal of rain and dew is allegorical to tshuva. Typically, in order to do tshuva, you got to do like the rain, meaning you do your part down here. You take your best. You put your best foot forward, and then after you added your moisture downstairs, God kicks in from Shemayim and He helps you out. That's typically the way tshuva works, like rain. You need isarusa de lasata. You need inspiration down here, and then God kicks in with His isarusa de la'ela, with His inspiration from min hashamayim. You can't expect God to say, "Wake up! It doesn't matter." We're friends, so I could do it to Him. But in other words, you can't expect God to sort of jolt you if you don't do your part, right? Yeah, but there's bechira. God doesn't interfere with your free will, typically. So He says, and then Hashem helps you. Like Chazal say, Habal Taher, Messiah Noisei. Because a person has to open up with tshuva. And Hashem says, Pischuli kisadak shalmachat. Open for me like a needle hole. And I will open for you like the gates of the Heichal. Okay. But at the very least, you need to do something downstairs. But what are we going to do if we just sit around twiddling our thumbs for the next 500 years and we don't inspire ourselves to do tshuva? Well, Hashem's going to say, look, I can't wait around for the rain to come. I can't wait around for you to take your inspiration, and then I'm going to kick in. Hashem's just going to come and, like you said, Hashem's going to jolt us up, even if we don't do anything. Why? God will wake us up and be mashpia on us even without any inspiration down here. Why? Because Hashem will say Lamani Yaseh, and He'll be mashpia milmala shefa letaher levavos without uvda delasata. Like when Hashem created the world. When Hashem created the world, nobody had to be ma'oyer Hashem to create the world. The creation of the world was isarusa dile Ela, even though the Adam ein lavid es Adama, Hashem was mashpia to the Bria. So Knesset Yisrael comes to Hashem, and Knesset Yisrael thinks, Ribbon Shalom, probably, look, we for sure need your help, but we have to do something, and therefore we ask of you, be like the rain to us. Knesset Yisrael says, Shabali uvda de lasata, b'psichas tshuva, loy tia shivas alikim omala, ki chein choik v'nimus l'fan of Yisbarach. Therefore, Knesset Yisrael only has the audacity to ask God, God, be like the rain. What does that mean, be like the rain? When we do our part, then what? Then you do your part. But Knesset Yisrael would never tell God, God, just wake us up and do everything, because it doesn't work that way. So but even a little bit, Zersham Yered Shifas Kachim Malmala Laham Silanu B'chol Karenu, like the rain which comes from when the rain rises up. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, no, you want me to be like the rain? I'm going to be much better. I'm going to give you something that's always wanted. Meaning, what does that mean, always wanted? Dew is always wanted. Because maybe Chas v'Shalom Klal Yisrael will not be Zakai, and there'll be nobody Lavid es Adama. So therefore, I'm going to do to you like Ma'aseh Bereshis. I'm going to allow you to have Isarusa de La'ila. In other words, the back and forth between the Hashem and Klal Yisrael is that Klal Yisrael says, God, just be like the rain. When we do our little precipitation downstairs, then take us the rest of the way, Isarusa de La'ila. And Rebbeinu Shalom says, no, I will do much better for you. I could be like the dew to you. That without any Isarusa de Lasata, I will give you Isarusa de La'ila. Well, I saw this here in a new Haggadah. Haggadah Shel Pesach Or HaMeir of Rav Meir Shapiro. In the Haggadah Shel Pesach Or HaMeir, Rav Meir Shapiro says, according to Rabbi Yonasan Eibeshitz, it comes out very beautiful. By the first day of Pesach, we're mispalel for
dew.
Tal. Why? Because even though typically we have to do a little inspiration downstairs for God to inspire us from Shamayim, but we all know that Pesach was different. Pesach was the one time that even though we're on Mem Tesharei Tumah, and even though Va'ad Erom Ve'arya were naked and bare of any Zechusim, and we did no tshuva, and we have no Maisim Toivim, the Rebbeinu Shalom said, it's time to get my kids out of there, and Hashem came min Hashamayim b'sarusa de la'ela, without any sarusa de la sata. God had to give it to us, but he had nothing, he saw we were empty and bare. He had to say, okay, here, so do, but we didn't, there's no Hisairos coming from us. We weren't Messiah at all. But the Rebbeinu Shalom came, he said it's okay, forget your Hisairos, we'll do without it this time. So says Rabbi Shapiro, V'lachein b'Pesach, Sheyadua, Shohitziyah Hashem Mitzrayim, B'li Yisarusa Dosata, Rak Ha'idei Sheikabla Tarach V'kein. Hashem says, you know what? You owe me! I'll do it on credit! I'm taking you out of Mitzrayim on credit. Hashem said, you'll pay me back later. Normally you gotta take the first step. But I'm going to give you on credit. By the way, what do you call when a storekeeper gives someone credit? Hakafa. Hakafa. By the way, the Svarim right, Chidusha Harim says in the Yotzrois of Parshas HaChodesh, we call the month of Nisan HaChodesh Asher Yeshuais Boy Makifais. A month that salvation envelops us like Hakafa. But it's also, the Sifrei Chasidus says, a lashon of chen v'nimakif. All the salvation that God gave to us on Pesach is on credit. Because normally we have to earn something. Hashem said, this time I'll give it to you, but you got to pay me back. That's why right after Pesach begins, we start paying the loan. But Hashem was kind. You know, we make minimum payments every day. Sfiras ha'omer is minimum payments until Kabbalah Satira. So says the Chidush Harim. What does it mean? HaChodesh asher Yeshua is by Makifos. Hainu sheHakadosh Baruch Hu lokach b'chodesh zeh es haYeshua b'hakafa go'alam al cheshvain she'asidem acher kach lekabel es haTorah. He revealed us with the calculation that we're going to be makabel the Torah afterwards. By the way, Menachem Mendel Meriminov also writes, this is a common idea in the Sifrei Chasidus, that the stanza in Yotzrois, Chodesh Asher Yeshua is by Makifos, refers to the fact that the Yeshua of Yetzias Mitzrayim was given to us by Hakafa on credit. We didn't put in Isarusa de la Sata. God just came in Hashemayim like what? Like the dew. So therefore, back to Meir Shapiro. B'chol lachein Hazman hazeh muchan l'spalal al hashpas hatal. This time of the year is designated, is specifically inclined toward that every year the koyach of tal is awakened. Like we say, shechayanu lazman hazeh. We know a time in Judaism is a living entity. That every year when we come back to a certain time, that time has in it the qualities of what transpired in it in years past. So therefore, the same way on the first Pesach, God inspired us min hashamayim, analogous to the dew. We're mispalel for dew every year on Pesach, but it's a mashal. It's a time to daven that the Rebbeinu Shalom could inspire us min hashamayim, even though we don't put in our part. Mar Rabbi Glatstein. On Sukkot, though, on the other hand, what do we daven for?
Geshem.
We daven for rain. Because Sukkot, we took the first step. Remember, the Vilna Gaon says that we were the ones who did tshuva for the Chet HaEgel. We inspired ourselves, and then the Rebbeinu Shalom returned in kind by giving us back the Anani HaKavod. So Sukkot is a time to daven for Esarusa Leila after Esarusa Sata, for Geshem, that God should inspire us after we do our part. But Pesach, God says, forget your part. I'll skip it. You owe it to me. You'll pay me back later. Marv Rabbi say, half of a fella.
That's why it's called Pesach.
Half of a fella. Normally, what's the procedure? God says what?
You open like a needle.
You open the door like a needle, and then I'll open up like a heichal. So what did Hashem jump over by the Yom Tov of Pesach?
First part.
He said, I'll jump over your door, meaning I'll jump over the need that you typically have to open the door. First, you got to open the door a little bit, and I'll open it the rest of the way. God jumped over our doors. He was Poiseach ala Pesach. He jumped over the need for us to open up the door. Very good. Very good. Says Rabbi of Mezbej, the Talmud of the Baal Shem. The meaning of the Yom Tov of Pesach is typically Hashem requests of a person that we should try with all of our ability, and then God will send out His lifeboat. Amar HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Pischu li Pesach kechudosh shamachat. V'ani yaftach lachem Pesach, that Agolos and Kronos could enter. But at this time in history, Klal Yisrael was in the Mem Teshari Tumah, and we were floundering. Kamat completely disappeared. So what did Hashem do? Hashem hastened to redeem us, and He did not wait for us to open the door, because maybe we wouldn't. So what does it mean Hashem jumped over the door? Hashem was mevater on our need to open the door. Hashem vitar al psichas ha-pesach mitzidenu. And the entire geula was all from Hashem. Half of a fella. The meaning of the Yom Tov of Pesach, what does it mean God jumped over the door? So He jumped over the door, and if He didn't jump over He skipped over the door, He hopped over the door. The deeper meaning is, Hashem said, you know what, typically the procedure, the Seder is, you open the door a little bit, and then I'll open up. Hashem jumped over our necessity to open the door. So I saw an incredible thing. In the Haggadah of Rav Ram Shor, the minhag is, the Ramah says that we say Shvei Chamascha and we open the door. What's the symbolism of opening the door the night of Pesach? The symbolism is that the night of Pesach, all the doors are open. All the doors are open. That's, he says, look at number 7. Yesh Lefarish, says Rav Ram Shor, Kol ma she'HaKadosh Baruch Hu gozer al Yisrael, He's Mekayim Tchila. Whatever God asks of us, He fulfills first. So if God asks us to open the door, that means all the doors of the night of all the doors of Shamayim are open the night of the Seder, and that means even though typically there may be things holding a person back from entering the doorway, the night of Pesach, all the entranceways of Shamayim are wide open. Hashem says, I obviate the need for you to be Pischuli Pesach Kechudoi Shalmachat. So beautiful. The Shem Shmuel quotes his Heilige father, the Avnei Nezer. The Avnei Nezer writes that even though normally the order of operations are Sur Meira, that you can't come close to Hashem if you're sullied, if you're filthy with sin. Aber danach von Pesach, the night of Pesach, it's very different. The night of Pesach, you know what we tell you to do? Just jump in! Kadesh! You'll worry about the orchatz later. You'll worry about cleaning yourself later. Typically, if a guy's a murderer, an adulterer, or he's filthy with sin, we say, hey pal, get your act together, and then you'll climb up to high madrigas. That's the rest of the year. The night of Pesach, you could skip a step. You could jump. You could jump the Sor Meirah.
It's supposed to be Chaz first, then Kaddish. So this is not Kaddish.
That's Kaddish and Orchaz. Says Avnei Nezer. That's why this is a special Seder the night of the Seder. It's a different Seder. It's a Seder where we could jump. The same way God jumped over the need for us to open the door, we could jump over the concept of Sor Meirah Va'asei Tov. Well, Marv Rabbeisai, I think then the appropriate and accurate name for the Yom Tov of Pesach is Pesach, because the concept and the theme of the Yom Tov of Pesach is an opportunity, so to speak, to skip a step. The rest of the year, we're sort of bogged down. We have a lot of baggage. Before a person comes close to Hashem, there's a lot of Sor Meirah to do. We once said over that, the night of Rosh Hashanah, the worst thing you could do, it's mamish rishos, is to give out nuts, to eat nuts, right? It's a terrible thing. To eat nuts, the night of the Seder. Because ego is the gematria chet. And here it is, the night of the Seder, the Rambam says, you give out nuts. So what in the world is going on over here? The night of Rosh Hashanah, if people have shilas, my wife made a cake and there's a little nut in it, and what should I do? Halavai people should be nizer and averos, the way they're nizer from, little nuts that might come into their cake, Halavai, it should be a new bracha. It should be zoicha to have Yer Shemayim, the way we're worried about nuts on Rosh Hashanah. And yet, the night of the Seder, everyone's throwing nuts everywhere, right? That's the main gift that you should be giving and distributing out of the Seder. The answer is, the rest of the year, Rosh Hashanah, Yimei Hadin, you got to watch out. You can't have even a semblance of chait when you come before Hashem on the Yom Adin. You have to really worry about that sor meirah. The Nida say there, we don't care about baggage. We don't care about chait. It's a time where you could forget the sor meirah. Don't worry about it. We'll pay back later. It's chodesh asher yeshuais makifais. All the gifts that God gave us are on credit. We could pay back later. Hashem jumped. He jumped over our need to put our best foot forward. There's a beautiful Meshech Chachma in Parshas V'aschanan. The Meshech Chachma says we have 3 Yomim Tovim. We have Pesach, we have Shavuos, and we have Sukkos. It says the Meshech Chachma V'nei Kasher Nizboinei, number 11, Al HaMoyadim Nira, Ki Hayras Chag HaPesach, Hu, Al Hoifas V'Hashpas Holikim Yisrach Al Ama Yisrael Mitzidai. Pesach means God revealing Himself and being mashpia on Klal Yisrael from His end. Shoytziim miMitzrayim, Avu Yisrael ba'atzmam, but we didn't deserve it. We were goy mikarav goy, we were halalu avdei avodah zara, and the only thing is Hashem gave us a few mitzvahs. But mitzidam, we didn't have any preparation. Now Shavuos, you have both. Klal Yisrael approached God by separating for 3 days. In Achdus, Vayichan Yisrael K'neged Ahar, Nasa v'Nishma, and Rebbeinu Shalom revealed Himself to Klal Yisrael. He was Megala Kavoidai. Hashem Hemircha, Es Hashem Hemarta. So in other words, it was a mutual relationship. But Chag HaSukkos, we did all the work. We did Shuvah for the Chedo Egel, and we brought our Nadavos, and we prepared, and then Hashem sort of took advantage of our Shuvah. So we find a medrash, a wondrous medrash in Shiurim, that Rav Shimon Yochai asked Rav Elazar ben Yaakov, that the pasuk says in Shiurim, Ba'atara she'itra lo imai. So the mashal given is a king who has a daughter, and he loved her so much he called her my daughter, and not only that, he called her my sister, and not only that, he called her my mother. So too Hashem loves Klal Yisrael. He says, Klal Yisrael, you're my biti. And then Hashem says, Klal Yisrael, you're my achoisi. And then Klal Yisrael, you're my mother. Says the Meir Simcha of Dvinsk, says the Meshech Chachma, that these 3 compliments that Hashem gives Klal Yisrael, biti, achoisi, imi, represent the 3 Yomim Tovim. The Yom Tov of Pesach is when Hashem came down in Hashamayim and He revealed Himself Begiloi Shechina, even though we didn't deserve it. By the way, there's an amazing Baal Haleshem. The Baal, typically we say that had Hashem not taken us out a moment sooner, we would have fallen to the 50th level of Tumah to the point of no return. So Hashem had to get us out before we sunk. Says the Baal Haleshem, no, just the opposite. There was such powerful Gilui Shechina Mitzrayim that had Hashem not taken us out, we would have reached the Madriga, the 50th level of Kedusha. Mashiach would have come right away. Hashem says, it's such a big gift, get out of here, you can't even handle it right now. So the Yom Tov of Pesach, our relationship to God was one way. We're His daughter. He's mashpia everything on us. We did nothing. We owe it. It's chodesh asher yeshuas makifais. The Yom Tov of Shavuos, it's mutual. We came close to Hashem. Hashem came close to us. So Hashem says, "You're my sister." Sisters, two-way street. But ultimately, we reached Madrega that Hashem called us His mother, because on the Yom Tov of Sukkot, what happened was we did all the tshuva and Hashem accepted it. So the Yom Tov of Sukkot is the Yom Tov of Imi, that we reached the Madrega to be the mother, so to speak, to Rebbeinu Shalom. Well, now we understand, says Meir Shapiro, on the Yom Tov of Pesach, we're mispalo for tal. Person could daven not only for parnasa, but for inspiration and hashamayim, and a person could say to Rebbeinu Shalom, I may be on such a low madrega that I can't pull myself out of it. Be ma'orer mi lamala. We could say Hashivenu Hashem Eilecha, and then v'nashuva. You return us, even if we don't do anything. The Yom Tov of Sukkot, we daven for Geshem. We say Rebbeinu Shalom, this Yom Tov is the Yom Tov where we do our part, and then you respond in kind. But Rabbi Sai, whatever gifts Rebbeinu Shalom gives us on Pesach, we owe Him, and we immediately start paying back with the 49 days of Sfiras HaOmer until the big payback day on the Yom Tov of Shavuos. Haba Aleinu Tova. I want to take this opportunity to wish everybody a Chag Kosher D'Sameach, and the Chasher Zachinu Lasois Oisoi Kein L'Sader Oisoi Kein Nizka So we should taka bizoicha to the Geula Shlema. We have a Mesorah that the third Beis Hamikdash will be built on the Yom Tov of Pesach. Chassam Sofer quotes the Ma'aser Rekeach, and we're going to have a little dilemma, because when are we going to do the Chanukah Sabayis? Because Ein Ma'arvin Simcha B'Simcha. So conveniently, there are only 7 days in the whole month of Nisan that don't really have any specific reason not to say Tachnun, and that is from the time Nisan is over until the end of the month. Those 7 days, from the time Pesach is over until the end of the month, those 7 days are reserved for the Chanukah of the third Beis Hamikdash. We should be zeicha to see it. B'mheira v'yameinu.
Amen.
The lesson is.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.